Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have a really great interview with Gabi Rose, where she talks about everything in her music career from when she started to playing with the Jonas Brothers, her own music, being on tour, everything in between. So stick around. I know you're going to enjoy it. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jacob Restituto, and I'm a musician from Northport, New York. And today I have the absolute pleasure of having Gabi Rose here on the channel. Gabi has done some tremendous things with her instrument and her music in general. So we're looking forward to this conversation. Thank you so much, Gabi, for taking the time to come
Yeah,
on the channel.
thank you.
Absolutely. Very much. Yeah, very much looking forward to this conversation. So, as we, I want to get into your story of your music career and what you've done with music in general. But before we even get into that, I want to talk about the fact that you are on your own little retreat at the moment. You were just telling me before we got started, which I think is the coolest little thing, or coolest thing, where you just got off of a big tour, which we'll get to in a little bit. But I think that it's really cool that you're taking the time to kind of recover and then feel those the creativity. Because I think that when we put out so much, whether it be social media or music or touring or recording, we forget that we have to actually put back in. To get that like to fill what we took out. It's like pouring a coffee cup. You gotta refill the coffee. So
Yes.
tell me a little bit about that. I want to hear about your little retreat before we even get started into who you are and your career and everything like that.
Well, it's been great so far. I think it's like kind of it has its challenges in a way too, like just being like totally alone after being on tour,
Mm,
basically constantly surrounded by people, whether it's the band or the crew or an arena or stadium filled with anywhere between like 18 and 45,000 people. So it's a big adjustment. But that's exactly what I wanted. I mean, going into tour, I wanted something that was going to challenge me and kind of shake up my life. And
mm,
so now I'm trying to and that's exactly what it did. And now I feel like it's like a grounding moment to do something like this. It's also great
hmm,
because before, the way my career was kind of playing out was like I was just gigging all the time. Mainly in New York and New Jersey and stuff like that. And I wouldn't have even had the opportunity to do
mm,
something like this, like to have like over a week where I didn't have to like be somewhere. So the winter months normally calms down anyway, but like if I was gonna be able to allot some time off, it would be like to go on vacation with my boyfriend or something like that. It wouldn't have been like just to chill and like write music and practice and just do whatever I want. So it's been really, really great to do this so far. And I'm kind of right at the beginning of it. So I'm not putting too much pressure on myself. I'm
mm.
just, every day setting an intention. And yeah, I mean, like I can reflect on every day and be like, wow, I like actually got a lot done. Like that was really, really nice. I'm going for walks or I'm meditating or I cooked a crazy meal in this kitchen. Like, and I'm not putting too much pressure on myself. I just want to like get back to like that creative feeling and like just see what comes out.
That is so cool, man. And before we know it, we're gonna have your own Regarding Stacks album, like Bon Iver. Your Bon Iver Woods album.
I know, I know. I definitely am getting Bon Iver,
Yeah,
like
right.
Noah Khan vibes right now.
Yeah, for
And
real. Yeah.
I've been listening to like country too. I'm like, oh, this feels nice. I like put the wood burning stove on. I'm like collecting sticks and like stuff like that in the
It's
back.
stick season.
Yeah. It's yeah, I'm all the feels right now. It's
That's really cool. I'm pretty jealous, actually. Not gonna lie.
I would highly
Um,
recommend it if you can. But I don't know, your studio looks very nice. That looks
thank you,
nice
thank you.
to be at all times.
It is absolutely. But there is something absolutely beautiful about being in the woods and being in just nature. But yeah, so let's get into this. So we're talking like we know each other because I know you, not well, but we're acquainted. I've met you a couple
Yeah.
times, and um, but the audience doesn't know who you are. So let's introduce you to the audience. If you can kind of just tell your story and who you are in the music industry, what you've done in the music industry, and kind of your story of how you got started.
Sure. So my name is Gabi Rose. Um, I, I'll keep it kind of brief. Because at this point I just turned 28, so it's like, wow, life is happening, and I have actually a lot to speak for it now. But I mean, when I started, in music. I was just starting in school. My parents weren't musicians or anything.
Mm.
They always encouraged me. But I was just a creative kid in general. So like I didn't know that I was necessarily going to do music. I loved music, but I was also a dancer and I was an athlete and I was doing a lot of like illustrating and drama, like theater. So I just grew up doing all that stuff. It wasn't until I got to college, which I hope that some of my SUNY Oneonta alum will see this because I've reconnected in the past like year or so with my alma mater, which is in
Oh,
upstate
cool.
New York, State University College at Oneonta, which was a school that I just kind of picked on the whim. They gave me a really nice scholarship, and I knew that they had a music industry program. So I was like, okay, like maybe I will major in that. And then before you knew it, I was just joining every ensemble, every club. Like I was even like thinking outside the box. Like the first one I joined was like show choir because a girl that I met who was like right across the hall from me, she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna do this. Do you want to do this?" She ended up being my best friend. Her name is Kayla, and we ended up rooming together for a couple years. So anyway, I just kind of threw myself into it. And college was really where I learned how to perform, and I started writing music and I started playing in bands and soloing for the first time, playing jazz. So it was just like I don't know if I would be here if it weren't for going to that school because I wasn't the type
Mm.
of
Very
musician that was
interesting.
like ready to go to Berkeley or like, Eastman or any kind of like conservatory, like serious type competitive situation. I just wasn't there. But I knew that I was kind of interested in like maybe working in the business.
Hmm.
Turns out I don't want to be a manager. I don't want to be an agent, and I definitely don't want to sit behind a desk. So I'm glad that I like got the tools and like the education for like the business of it all. And obviously it's like always changing and I'm always learning it. But I'm just glad that I leaned into the performance playing
Yeah.
side of it.
Let me pause you with that really because I want to jump on that really quickly because I related to something you said that you weren't necessarily the musician to go to Eastman or Berkeley, which for those who aren't super familiar with that whole aspect of it, I very much remember. Even though I dropped out of college, I did go to college for music for 1 year.
Right.
I very much remember the music, like searching for schools for the music industry and being that I was very into music, but I was not a classical performer. I found it really hard to fit into any music school.
Exactly.
Um, and I just kind of want to, if you could touch on that, because that's something I really related to is like, even inside my high school music program, like all the people in the like I love music theory, like I took all the music theory classes, music production classes. But I was the only kid that wasn't in band or orchestra. Like I say this as an example all the time, like the teacher would be like, "Oh, what'd you listen to over the weekend?" And they'd be like, "Oh my gosh, Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. Oh, it was phenomenal." Or Tchaikovsky, and I'm like, "Yeah, I listened to like
Sorry.
Coldplay." You know, like,
You you actually had students that were like
oh my
listening
gosh,
to stuff.
that's what they loved. And then when
That's
I went to
amazing.
Queens College, and it
Wow.
was Aaron Copland School of Music, and it's a great school, but like it was that's what the music program. What people love that stuff. I had
I
part
mean,
of
it
the
makes sense if you're going to like, yeah, a music school or, any kind of school like that, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and then part of the entrance exam was like you had to listen. It was a hearing exam, or they call it music history exam, and you had to listen to a 5 second or 10 second snippet of a song, being a classical song, be like, what time period is this from? Who is like? And I'm like, I couldn't care less. Like, look, I have an appreciation for it. I definitely admire it, but it's like I'm not going on the car radio and be like, let me listen to Bach's fourth, like. But I felt like, but that made me feel like a tremendous outlier. So I'd love just to hear your perspective on that, being that you're obviously not a class. I mean, you're not currently in the classical industry, so I'd love to hear your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like I started in school, so I learned the foundation that, I think is important to learn. And then certainly from college, then I learned a foundation in jazz, neither of which I'm doing straight up. Like I'm not
Mm-hmm.
doing straight up classical and I'm not doing straight up jazz. And a lot of people think that there is this kind of box, especially when you're
Mm-hmm.
picking schools, like when you're going away to college. I mean, I have friends now I work with, and I have a lot of friends who went to like Berkeley, for example. And Berkeley reminds me a lot of like Oneonta in a way. Obviously, it's a much more renowned like music school with a lot more departments and everything like that. But in the sense of like, you can go to a school like Berkeley and not have been that type of like classical or straight up jazz musician. And they have a big like music business program as it like as my school did too. So like there is an education out there like for people who are like the type of musicians that like me and you are or were back then. But I also feel like, yeah, most of my education has happened like since I've been out of school,
Oh,
like, being out in the world,
absolutely.
which a lot of people will say. And like I said, I didn't need to spend, or my parents didn't need to spend over 100 grand to send me somewhere else. I still luckily ended up like right where I think I belong. And especially, yeah, the timing of things. I just needed a school that was like chill. And especially it's in upstate New York. So like there's a huge like the music is booming in upstate New York. There's so many
Mm.
like jam bands and like there's like country and there's folk and like there's every kind of genre. You can find some community up there. So
Mm.
yeah, that's why it was good for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying and I feel the same way. And I think if I went to another school, maybe I would have dropped out. I just luckily ended up in the right spot.
Yeah, absolutely. So I appreciate that digression, but now let's continue on your journey. So you finish, you continue with school, you finish school, you wrap up school, and then now what? You're out of school, and what happens in the music industry?
Well, I had to intern as part of my, so basically I ended up majoring in music industry and business economics and I needed to intern. So I interned in Barcelona. That's when I actually met somebody. His name was Lexter and we started writing like music together, like dance tunes during remotely during my senior year of college. And so when I graduated, my first gigs were in Barcelona. So it was like for me, I call that entertainment boot camp because I was not only trying to like speak Spanish, but I was also like kind of DJing for myself and singing and playing. And I was playing in clubs and restaurants and everything. And when my time there was like done, then I just looked for work here in the States. So I got a part-time job in retail and I started working with bands. So just like that, I started doing like weddings and private events and everything and just meeting a ton of musicians in and around New York. And one thing led to the next. Then around 5, 6 years later now that I've been doing like all different types of gigs. And I got the call for the Jonas Brothers. So I didn't audition or anything. I didn't know that this was going to come up. It's very serendipitous when I look back on it. And I feel like the universe was kind of conspiring to put me exactly here. But it was not the plan. And it just came from a lot of hard work over the last like almost 6 years and meeting the right people and kind of just
Sure.
a little bit of luck too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's that like cliche of like hard work is just opportunity. Oh, I mean, luck is just what is it? Luck is just opportunity and hard work put together or something like that.
I
It's
know
a crossroad.
I know the
It's the
phrase.
crossroads between hard work and opportunity. I don't know, something like that.
It is,
Um,
yeah. Because like everyone might get lucky at some point, but it's like, are you prepared to do something with that luck? And are you
yeah.
prepared for that opportunity when it comes? So yeah, luckily I was.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do feel like we glossed over the 5 or 6 years of gigging, which most people, which rightfully so in the sense of like it's exciting what we're going to talk about next, but also like that's the foundation of everything. I think that's really where you cut your teeth and like really
Mhm.
got met the people. And I don't want to I don't want to gloss over it because I think that that's so important. Like people don't realize what the music industry actually looks like. Now I've never really gigged with band like wedding bands, but I did the whole restaurant circuit and like bar circuit and stuff.
Mhm.
And I haven't done it in years, but like as a solo artist, it sucks, man. Like you get to depending on what you're doing. Like there was weekends I played like 5 gigs in a row. Like
Get it?
so it would be like a Friday night, three on Saturday and two on Sunday. It was absurd, like and you get to the gig at 9 o'clock. You don't leave until 2 o'clock.
Hmm.
And I mean the beautiful part about being a wedding band is people do want the music as opposed to like playing in a restaurant and bar. People like sometimes don't, and
Oh,
like
I've
it's
done
like
both. Yep.
yeah, and it's like that's not fun,
But that's
you
a good
know.
point. Yeah.
So, but I just want to, if you could share some experience, maybe some poor experiences actually, because I really I want people to hear the story of like, oh, it sucked, but it was all worth it kind of thing, if that makes sense, because we just kind of focus on the glory a lot, like in the Instagram generation, right? Oh,
Yes.
here's the highlight reel, but not the 10,000 hours that you put in playing these gigs that really sucked, you know?
Well, that's why it's cool to be like having this conversation in an interview format with like another musician, because I feel like most of the time people are like would be like, I just want to hear about the Jonas Brothers. Like,
Mm,
tell me all about that. But it's like, yeah, there was a lot that happened leading up
yeah,
to
absolutely.
and it's very,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's dense. I mean, so I I did my fair share of so many different things. So it started at least in Barcelona, it was playing a restaurant, trying to get them to dance. So that was like a different kind of, and I was playing, okay, I mean, when I say that was boot camp, like I really mean it, because that was like 5 out 4 or 5 hour gigs, oftentimes by myself. And I was a kid, like I was just getting my repertoire together. Like I would go back to my flat and like just try and memorize as many songs as I possibly could. And I was like so green and like so timid and nervous. But it really like forced me to get out of my shell.
I don't know how I got hired for some of the first gigs that I did.
Too.
Looking back, I'm like, who hired that kid?
Oh my God, me too. I look back and I'm like, I cannot believe that I knew nothing. I can't
Yes,
believe that I was in this situation.
100%.
I knew nothing. But I guess I was always good enough. Like that's the thing. I kept getting
Wow,
opportunity
yeah,
after
absolutely.
opportunity. And where I was at a few years ago, as opposed to now, is like back then, I just wanted to be a chameleon. Like I wanted to be a chameleon. I wanted to be a workhorse. So it's like just saying yes to anything that I could say yes to and being exactly what the person who hired me needed me to be. So like if that meant in a band situation, it's like, okay, am I singing? Great. Do I need to call the tunes? Great. Let me make sure that I'm sending a set list. Let me make sure that if I need to lead the band, like I know how to do that. Like, and just being a team player. And if I'm performing in a restaurant, it's like, okay, I needed to then buy a whole PA. I needed to learn how to run sound. I needed to like buy the mixing board. I needed to like buy the cart so I can bring, like, I was lugging all this gear around all the time,
Yeah,
just like you have, like for
yeah.
playing in restaurants and like then like setting up a whole band a lot of the time. Like these were all the skills that I just like needed to acquire along the way. Um, Based on my willingness to say yes and then my willingness to like I said, just be whatever was needed. Now
Hmm.
I have afforded, because of those years of hard work, I've afforded myself a little bit more of the luxury to pick and choose what I want to do and always show up as myself, and people know what they're
Hmm.
getting a little bit more. But like, yeah, I needed to kind of like do all these different types of gigs. I wasn't even so I started singing in the wedding bands, but I was not comfortable playing even at that point, like playing saxophone. It's funny because now saxophone
Really,
has gotten me way further in my career,
I'm
even.
surprised by that actually.
Yeah, it was so I was working with a band I still work with them, called East Coast Band. And the band leader, he really encouraged me. He's like, "Oh yeah, you should play saxophone now." And I was so intimidated because like there were these older guys that were in the horn section and they were amazing players and they were super experienced. And I just felt like, I don't know, like I was just really nervous. And it took me a second to like learn the gig, but like yeah, so I wasn't even comfortable playing at first. I just tried to say yes to as many things as possible. And speaking of like bad stories, like there's been plenty of gigs where there was like basically nobody there, or
Yeah,
the sound like totally crapped out and I didn't know what to do. God, like so many, I can't even really think of like
yeah.
one in particular, or like horrible weddings where like people are being totally rude. Normally weddings are great though, because like everybody's there to like have a good time. But or I've always had some sort of original project alongside the work that I've done. So like, now it's my project and Rose, but before it was my college band, and we were still like gigging and touring and putting out music even after we had graduated. And like there was one time where like, we were trying to be professional, but it was like a crazy blizzard, a crazy snowstorm. And we drove out like 3.5 hours to like, Western New Jersey or something. And we barely made it there. And then we made it there and there was nobody there. Like we played to zero people,
Oh, I've done that.
like maybe one person, two people. Yeah. So it doesn't even feel like
Yeah.
that long ago. And I still fear like every time that I play. I'm like, yeah, there might not be anybody here. Like, but I've done it before. So what
Yeah, I hear you. It was so dead at the bar that I played at once. The bartender went into the back, and I literally played to an empty room.
we've all been there. We've all been there. But you learn like these
Absolutely,
like
and you get over it. Like,
exactly.
one thing I do. I don't know if you might get these messages too, but like, I get a lot of messages of people saying like, "Hey, I think I want to be in the music industry because I like singing, or I like playing, or I want to make music." And I'm never going to be the person to be like, I don't know if you're cut out for it, but like I think one thing that I've noticed myself is I can't do anything else. Meaning like I have to do music,
Mhm.
and this whole like I think I kind of wanna is like it's gonna chew you up and spit you out, and if you I don't think if for the people that like that last or make a career out of it, it's something they have to do, and you know what I mean. It's like this like okay, that sucked. I can't believe I played for 0 people. But I got a gig tomorrow, so I'm just gonna show up. You know what I mean? And hopefully there's more than that. And it's like as opposed to like this wishy washy. You know what I mean? It just it's the love for the music is greater than the highs and lows of the career.
Totally. And you have to like keep picking yourself back up. And then you figure out the more you do it, the more you realize what you like and what you don't
Hmm.
like. Like there are certain things that I just wouldn't do again. And,
Yeah,
but I'm glad that I did it.
yeah.
Actually, also speaking of like all these different types of gigs, the gig that got me the Jonas Brothers gig was busking in New York City. So I wasn't even really busking. You have a lot of musicians who like play in the subways and stuff like that. I wasn't even
Mm-hmm.
doing too much of that. But I got a call from my friend Jonathan, who's an amazing trombone player and he dances and like everything. And he was like, "Hey, we're looking for like a sub. Like, it's this brass band, and we've been like performing around like, you know, Midtown and stuff like that." And I was like, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll show. I didn't know the set list, like I didn't know anything, but I just got right into it, and the guys were great. It's like a basically like three horns plus sousaphone, like the
Oh
big
yeah.
one, and then a drummer, and everybody was really nice, and I learned that gig pretty quickly, but I couldn't do that gig all the time because the commute and like everything, and I was in the studio a lot during that time. But just from doing it like a good handful of times, it's with Triad Brass, and they're killing. If anybody's listening, they're killing it right now. They like just performed in Times Square for New Year's Eve. So
Wow.
those guys. But a guy named Mikey Sarian, and he's a trumpet player. He just thought of me on his like as at the very end of his long list of recommendations for the Jonas Brothers gig when the music director asked him. And I was just an afterthought. And then I ended up getting the call. So it's funny how like a gig like that, I would have never, 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 ever thought would get me a gig like
Hmm.
this. And they're both amazing gigs, but it's like
Yeah.
never know where you're going to end up.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. So I'm curious. Now, this is your own opportunity to brag on yourself, I guess you could say. Why do you think they chose you? Like, what made you stand out? You think?
um, I feel like when you go on my Instagram or my TikTok or my YouTube, you can see what I'm all about. Um, so I'm glad that I have that. It's like you can kind of see my personality, you can see the way I play, and what I can like bring to the table. And I think it was a combination of having a good recommendation. Um, but again, I was like among a bunch of other people. So it's like, why did he call me? I think it's being able to like really like not be fearless with what I show of
Hmm.
myself online. Like
Hmm.
I think it's important. It being on social media isn't for everybody, but like it is important to have some kind of like footprint on the internet. That way, yeah, when somebody wants to look, like you don't know who's watching. And I always said that with every bar gig, with every wedding, with every playing in the streets in New York. It's like you don't know who's watching. So that's what I've always thought, even in regards to my social media. I think they wanted somebody that was like fun, like that like could be challenged with like a big stage like that, like this is the first time as far as I know for a whole tour that the Jonas Brothers are bringing out like a huge ass band. So it's like they basically doubled the size of their band, included a whole horn section, extra backup singers, percussionists, cellists, like everything. So
Yeah.
I just think like they were looking for somebody that was gonna like break the mold a little bit of like what a typical horn section or horn player like in the backing band looks
Yeah.
like. And I feel like we're doing that like as a group. It's not just me, it's like all of us, like we're out there dancing, we're like working the stage. Like there was literally a choreographer during our rehearsals. So it's like, well, there's no dancers. So who's the dancers? Like
Mm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
us.
Yeah.
And again, it kind of goes back to that, like, hey, what do you need me to do? Like, what does this call for? And I'm just, if they wanted me to totally just be in the back and play and totally sit still, like that's fine. Like I still would have said yes to this opportunity because I'm a lifelong fan of the Jonas Brothers and what an opportunity it is. But I think they were looking to Chase, the music director in particular, and the brothers, like were looking to like shake it up a little bit. So I'm glad
Yeah.
it helped me.
So, if I could wrap up essentially what you were saying, it kind of just sounds like, based on all the experience that you've had through college, through Barcelona, through going gigging, touring with your band, you made essentially, and through social media, which is a great segue into your TikTok. You made yourself marketable,
Mhm.
and you have this whole marketing package. And not only that, but like you have a kind of a brand about you with your whole red hair and your whole look and your whole charisma. You have the Gabby Rose, signature. You know what I mean? And I think that that really is attractive to a lot of people. That they're like, for example, I knew of you through a friend, through your East Coast band, and
Yeah.
every time they talk about you, they would say, "Oh, Gabby's an add-on." Gabby's an add-on because people knew you for who you were, and you were packaged like you weren't just another singer. You made your you made this persona, this personality. You made yourself where people were like, "Oh, you want Gabby? Well, she's not just a normal singer. Like she's not a singer and a sack. Like she's extra." And you made that for yourself, and you built that as a career. And I think that that is a part of the reason as to why you stood out. You made yourself stand out over the 8 years or whatever since you graduated from college. So kudos to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I'm
Absolutely.
glad that we ended up here. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I yeah, it just goes back to like I was figuring out a lot of different things. So I'm glad
Yeah.
that now I can always show up as myself because it feels
Sure.
authentic.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I think that if you make it a point to continue to always be yourself, it pays off in the end. It might not pay off in the beginning. In the
Oh,
beginning, it always pays off more in the beginning to be whatever people need,
pay
which
your
is fine. Which
dues.
yeah, and that. But if you can, if you never break out of that, you actually end up getting stuck. And as
Totally.
opposed to like, okay, there's a time now. I've done this for enough. I need to actually break out and be me, as opposed to just continuing to saying yes to things. And so I think some people get stuck in that other place and they never grow, and they always stay that workhorse.
Yes.
Um, so I want to hear about the tour, and I want to hear what tour life looked like. I want to hear what rehearsals look like, because from what I think I read on your Instagram or something like that, you only had like 2 days of rehearsals or something like that. Is something. So tell
We
me
have
tell me
longer
about that process.
it was longer than 2 days, but honestly, not much longer. So, I mean, the Jonas Brothers like operation has been together, like, well, back together really since like 2019. And if you count like how Nick had his solo thing and then Joe had his solo thing with DNCE, it was like they had their own individual infrastructures still kind of in place. So like they kind of combined them in 2019 when they got back together and put together like the band that it is now. And then, like I said, pretty much doubled the size of the band for this tour. So it's like a modern and like pop rock version of like Bruce Springsteen's E Street Band in a way.
Mm,
I mean, rehearsals were a lot. Like they were long days. But it was a perfect time to like get to know everybody and also get to know the brothers for the first time. And I got really, really, really good vibes and energy from like day one. And so I knew it was going to be great. Everybody got along so well. And honestly, like we all get along really well. That's another component which a lot of people talked to me about when I started, like in music. They were like, listen, 20% of it is like your ability to do the job and your talent, but the other 80% is just your ability to like get along with people and be somebody that they want to
100%.
call, right? Everybody
Absolutely.
always says
Absolutely.
this, and it's like 200% true. um I don't think I would still be like there's no reason for them to keep anybody around if you're hard to work with or if you're a pain in the ass, because there's a million people in line waiting to have your job.
Probably more talented than whoever they are, right?
Yeah. So I feel like Chase did an amazing job of putting together the right group of people. Rehearsals,
Chase is the musical director.
Chase is the yeah, Chase
Is
Foster.
he in the band?
So he's actually not playing in the band. He has played in the band before. He's like a genius. Like he's really a fiddle player, but he plays every instrument. And he's like, at least during the show, during this tour, he's like on the sidelines, like with the headset, like mapping out the show, timing out the show. He's on the
Wow.
back with us, but no, he's not on
Wow.
stage. He played some songs on fiddle though, like when we like would add some songs on tour. But yeah, it's great to have like that person who's also like the liaison between like the band and production and everything like that.
Mm,
But this is like my favorite part of being in the show, and this is what I tell people because I also have a musical theater background.
mm,
um, it feels like I am a cast member of like the Jonas Brothers on Broadway, like as if I was like in a Broadway show because the cast is big and I almost feel like a character. So it's like we all have a different like archetype in a way. Like we all have different outfits that really
mm.
represent like who we are and what we're comfortable performing in and everything. And we're just the way we interact on stage and everything. And it's just been like that even during the rehearsal process. I felt like I was like rehearsing for like a musical theater show again, like in the best way. So the process was a lot. It was tiring and I honestly didn't feel none of us felt, at least none of the new people felt 100% ready for that first show, but we got thrown to the fire, two sold out nights at Yankee Stadium.
How before you got to the big Yankee Stadium gig? How much earlier were the rehearsals? Like how much before the gig?
It was kind of like set like 8 days, 7 or 8 days of rehearsal.
Oh, really? Oh, okay, okay.
It was not a lot. It was not a
Uh huh.
lot.
I mean, to learn
They
3 hours
had
worth of music too.
yes, like the reason why I said they already had their infrastructure because like the band members who had already been a part of it, they knew the music really well already. So it was just a matter of getting the rest of the new people up to speed. So it was definitely like the hardest work for us, like any of the new band members and any of like the production crew who was like
Mm,
putting this together, like um they did an amazing job at like because it's based on like what we're doing on stage too, like the lighting and the sound, like all of that depends on like what's happening on stage. So if you're putting the show together, it's like they just have to be following like what's going on and they
yeah,
were with it. So
yeah,
yeah, I give a lot of credit to like everybody for doing that so
yeah.
fast.
It's incredible. And how early did you get the call, as opposed to like how much before the call did you end up playing the gigs?
It was like about a month,
Which is a
maybe a little
crazy
over a
turnaround.
month. Yeah, I was actually on tour. I play with a band called Bill Murray, and I was on tour with them. And it was like we were doing sound check when I got the call. So luckily, like the timing was fine. I had about a week and a half after that tour to then get ready for the next tour.
So,
Yeah, it wasn't a lot, but
yeah.
it all happened. Yeah, it happened fast.
Are you going overseas with them?
Yeah.
That's wild. What a life. So tell me about tour life.
I really like tour life because I don't know if I have ADHD or something. I always feel like I need to be doing something. And when you're on the road, it's like you can't do everything. You have to like be present on the road. Like you're going from city to city to city to city. And it's like, I feel like it almost comes like for some people it might be hectic and it definitely can be. There's a lot of different ways to tour. I've toured in a van, I've toured in a bandwagon, and now this is the cushiest tour experience that I've had.
Sure.
But it's still like, I can't I allow myself to be a lot more present when I'm on tour.
What does
So
that mean to you?
like on our off days, I'm like spending a little bit of time with myself to like check in and like make sure that like I'm keeping my body healthy, making sure I'm going to the gym, making sure I'm getting enough sleep, making sure I'm journaling so that I'm like really living in the experience and then like exploring the cities, like hanging out, getting to know the band a lot better. And then on show days, it's pretty full on. Like on show days, it's like we get to the venue kind of early, like in the afternoon, probably have some kind of sound check. We might be running new tunes, like whatever. And then it
Mm.
is a 3 hour show. So, and all the girls, like it's fun to like get ready with having so many girls in the band too, because it is kind of half and half, like male and female, which I love. And so we're all just getting ready, like in the dressing rooms together, like doing our hair, doing our makeup, listening to music about like, an hour to 2 hour before the show
Oh
starts.
wow,
And then the show is long. So
it is long.
then after that, we have some after show food and we travel to the next city and we go to bed. We always have hotels, but we also have the bus. So to make sure that we, are sleeping somewhere whenever we need to.
So you gave a brief, like a quick overview. So I'm curious to like show days. Are you when do you typically arrive to the next venue or the next city, and then like are you still sleeping? Are you awake? Like how does that work? And then what time do you typically arrive to the venue? And then I'm also curious about post show food. What's on the menu for that?
So we usually leave the city when we're done. So like if we don't have another show in that city, we leave the night of the show when it's finished. And so however long that trip takes, we're on the bus and you can choose to sleep on the bus or whatever. But then when we get to the hotel at our next destination, then we can get off the bus and like go into our hotel. Sometimes we have to get off the bus, sometimes we don't have to. But yeah, it is always nice to have a hotel. The catering is great too. Like basically on show days, there's catering for the whole band and crew. So we're being fed. Basically, I don't like to eat too much before the show because then it weighs me down.
Hmm.
But after show food, it can be whatever is like the late night kind of food in that city.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
it can be great. It could be not so great. It just depends. But it is good to have. I mean, I'm the type of person like I always want to just slam a meal like after I
Sure.
perform. So,
And it's got to be cool to see the different cultures of all the different cities and try
oh,
the
for
different
sure.
food.
Yeah, we'll try to like, if there's like a really good Mexican spot, it's like we'll try to get that if we can. That way everybody's like, yeah, feeling like, oh, you know,
Yeah.
this is a local kind of
How
thing.
much interaction does the whole band as a whole have together, or are you all kind of separated, like between crew, the brothers, the horn section, like the backup singers? Like, what does that whole team look like? Are you all kind of together all the time, or does like the crew have their own thing? Is the brothers doing their own? Like, what does that look like? Like, I guess tour relationship.
Every department is on their own schedule. So I spend the
Okay.
most time with the band, like as in the backing band, because we're always traveling together and we're on the same schedule. The brothers themselves have their own schedule and they travel separately. So we do get to hang out with them quite a bit, but it kind of just depends. Like it'll be maybe like before a show, after a show, and it's like normally like it would be like planned because like they have families to get back to. So they do a really good job at like touring, but then also like keeping up with their families on the road.
Hmm.
So that's why they travel separately. Well, I mean, I'm sure there's other reasons too, but I know that that is like a big
That's cool.
priority for them. Um, and so yeah, I spent a lot of time with the band. And we've all become like a family.
Yeah, I bet that's cool. Are they all based around the U.S. or all like New York based?
Most of the band is from LA.
Oh,
I'm
interesting.
the only native New Yorker. And the horn section, aside from Fabian, the tenor sax player, is like kind of from sort of the East Coast. Everybody's like kind of from different areas, but yeah, most of the band is from LA, which is cool that I even got the opportunity because a lot of these touring bands get hired out of LA.
Yeah, absolutely. Our last question about the tour, and then we'll move on. Is what would you say your hands down one of your favorite memories from the tour is?
Ooh, let me think, let me think, let me think.
Either memory, or we can do a caveat or experience. What was your favorite experience? Which doesn't have to necessarily be. I feel like experience is a broader term.
Yeah, I would say one of my favorite cities that we went to was Spokane, Washington. For a few reasons. It's so cute. And we had like a day off there and we like went thrift shopping and like we went to some restaurants. We got late night tattoos.
Very cool.
I got a little like
Look
dance
at that.
to honor like the inner child and like the dancer in me.
That's cool.
And also one of my favorite artists came to that show to
Very
perform,
cool.
Alan Stone. So that was insane because I've loved Alan Stone for so many years now. And to then be able to like play his song Brown Eyed Lover on stage with him during the Jonas Brothers show and then hang out with him after, like
Yeah.
that was that was like amazing. I was like, I can't believe
Yeah.
that just happened. So that's probably one of my favorites is like, I mean, and a lot, there's been a lot of experiences like that where I'm like, wow, I'm like meeting my idol right now. That's insane.
That is wild. Yeah, absolutely. It's cool the opportunities that present themselves when luck meets out, or what is it? Opportunity and hard work meet each other.
Hmm. Hmm.
I'll write that down one day. I'll get that quote back.
We'll put it on the screen.
Yeah, exactly. I need a teleprompter. Um, so I wanna talk about like essentially life after the tour, and then also your social media because I think you do a really 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 good job with that. And I essentially first of all, let's talk about life after tour, and what does that look like for you? Like, what's a typical day outside of tour now? What is it? Like, are you taking? Because the tour ended. I was at the last show at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn,
Mhm.
which was December 13th ish.
December 9th. Yeah.
Okay. And then you go on tour again in what, February?
We're doing a week in Mumbai, India for Lollapalooza. And then I
Wow.
come back and then I go out again in February. Yeah.
Wow, that's wild. Okay, so between now and February, what does that look like?
Well, I just released a song today, so I'm kind of getting
Oh,
back
we
to
should have been
that.
talking about that for, I had seen that on your TikTok and I meant to bring it up. I'm sorry that I didn't bring it
Oh,
up
it's
earlier.
fine. We're getting to it. Yeah. So I was
Let's
up
talk about that.
late last night because it came out at midnight. So it's called Therapy. This is a song that I wrote like last year and I put it on social media because I had a collaboration going with it's like a DAW, but like online. I don't know if you've heard of Soundtrap by
Hmm.
Spotify. It's literally like
Hmm.
Spotify's, you know, thing like that. And so I wrote this song on there, like using just like MIDI guitars and like digital instruments and everything. And I used the song as part of like the video, like promotion for them. And a lot of people were like, what is this song? Like, is this out? Where can I hear it? And then kind of got buried for a little while. And then with the help of like Jake, Kit, and Anthony, my collaborators on this song, they revived it from the dead and we tried some different things with it and now it's out. So it's called Therapy. It's about just kind of being like, fuck, okay, I've tried to do everything myself. Maybe it's time to just like, you know, talk to somebody because I feel like therapy as a whole, as a talking point and as like a thing, it's not as like taboo as it was
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
a decade ago, but
100%.
it's still kind of hard to like get yourself to go. Like I feel like it was something that I was thinking about for a while and then to just finally be like, okay, I have to like rip the band-aid and just give it a shot. So the song is about that. Yeah, so at midnight I went on TikTok live and was like performing it and taking
Oh,
requests.
cool.
So when I'm home, I do a lot of that. I love going on like TikTok live. So that was my first time doing that since tour, and I'll probably do a
Mm.
little bit more of that while I'm here. And as far as playing with my band and Rose, I definitely want to do that at some point between like some of these tour dates. Um, but right now, we're just focusing on getting some music out.
Very cool. And the last talking point I want to talk about, like we kind of briefly just touched on it, is your social media, and how you I think really effectively used it as a tool. And I think that so many musicians, I think I was going to say that so many musicians struggle with it, but it's not even fair to say that because in order, I think, to succeed, and one of the ways to succeed in the music industry today is through social media.
Mhm.
But I don't think it gets enough credit as it being a completely different skill. And
Yeah,
because it's still we call them content creators. It's still a creative skill, but it's like asking a photographer to do video, and it's like asking a trumpet player to play the saxophone. It's a totally different skill.
true.
And I think that doesn't get that talked about enough because I think that we're all like, it's like a requirement, and some people do it really really well and some people do it really poorly, and the people that do it poorly get judged for doing it poorly, but in reality it'd be like you ask me to play the drums, like I wouldn't do well at it, right? But
Mhm.
that being said, you do it really well, and I would just kind of like to hear your relationship with it, and how you go about it, what you found works, what you found doesn't work, and what you'd like to do more of, what you don't want to do more of, just kind of your relationship with social media.
Yeah, I started taking it more seriously during COVID. So when everything shut down and I didn't have my typical job anymore, which was going out and performing, all my gigs were canceled. So I treated social media like a job. So this was even before TikTok. So I was just once, at least once a week, I was putting together videos, and I also learned how to like video edit. So I bought Final
Mm.
Cut Pro, and I was like splicing together clips of me singing, playing flute, playing guitar, playing keys, and like fully like producing these covers and stuff like that. So yeah, I was like treating this as if it was my job. And it was like for potentially growth, but like I didn't have too much social, like I just kind of wanted to do it. And like it was a good exercise. Some of my favorite musicians that I looked up to, they were putting out videos like that. And I
Mm.
was like, I'm inspired to do that. Then at the beginning of 2021, I started posting on TikTok. And within just a few weeks, a cover video of my version of Driver's License by Olivia Rodrigo came out, which Olivia Rodrigo's song, especially at that time, like that is a moment in history that is a relic because she is like the first huge artist to like have her song really pop off because of TikTok. So I definitely was riding
Mm.
that wave. My cover being one of the ones that, you know, went viral at the time. And so then I was like, that was the first time that I realized, oh, cool. I can actually just show up as myself. I don't have to worry about, or I don't have to like overthink this as much as I was. I was like I was making my videos for musicians, put it that way. I
Mm.
was like trying to do all these really cool musical things before, and I was like trying to impress my musician friends. And then starting on a new platform where it was like, I don't even have an audience right now, and like
It's a
everybody's,
beautiful thing.
yeah. And I was like, everyone's talking about this new song, Driver's License. Let me just listen to it. And like, maybe I'll just do a cover. And like putting a sax solo over that, it was like, and keeping it really bare bones simple, like just all even recorded just through my iPhone. Nothing fancy. And like having that blow up, I was like, that's really cool. Maybe I could just try doing more of that. So then it turned into like me just trying a lot of different content, like fun content that shows my personality a little bit more. And I mean, it's always trial and error, but now that social media has gotten me to um like different, I feel like I've used it as a tool to get me to where I want to be in the real world. Social media is still
Mm.
not my job, and I still don't take it like too seriously because it's so unpredictable. But and I don't want to like live, I don't want social media to be my job. I want it to be a tool, but like now it's like I just kind of document what I'm doing in real life, and it feels really natural and organic. And I'm really not worried about like growth anymore because I have a good audience and I want to just show up for them and like what they
Mm.
want to see and like what they know me as. And I feel like the strategy, if there is one that's worked for me, has been like waves. So it's like maybe for a couple months, I am focused on like, oh, I'm gonna try and just work with the algorithm and like put out some videos that I know are gonna do well and bring some attention to my page because I'm putting out a new song or something like that, or because I'm trying to reach this new audience because that's like the type of music that
Yeah.
I'm listening to or whatever. But I don't take it too seriously anymore. And I just document what I'm doing in
Yeah.
real life.
Absolutely. Well, it seems to be working really well.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, it makes it a lot
Absolutely.
more fun. It doesn't feel like a job, you know. It's just
Absolutely.
like, okay, we're just gonna put this out.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat and all the insights and nuggets of knowledge that you shared with the audience. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, thank you.
You're very welcome. So the way I like to end every single interview is with the same question, and it goes: what is something you know now in your career that you wish you knew when you first started out?
Somebody asked me this recently, and I'm gonna stick to my answer because I like this answer a lot. Uh for me, one thing is like always stay true to like the inner child that got you into music in the first place. That has served me so well. Is like returning to like, why do I want to play music? What gets me excited? What gets me inspired? Because when I was a kid doing music, I didn't even think that it was ever going to be my career. And I had no agenda. I was just doing it for fun. And to hold on to as much of that as I can, even though now I'm an adult with a career and with responsibility, to hold on to as much of that like inner child as I can. Um, that's the most important thing. And I feel like I was reminded of that even more so because of this experience. Um, the Jonas Brothers were my first concert when I was a kid. So now for them to be my first like big stadium arena tour, it's very much come full circle. And as a
Yeah.
saxophonist, it's something that I never actually could have imagined would
Mm.
happen because I didn't have that example when I was a kid. So now it's like, okay, like I'm still that person. Like I'm still just that like 12-year-old Jonas Brothers fan. But now I get to be on stage with them. And so just remembering to check in with that,
Yeah.
remembering to check in with like your inner child, I would say that's something that I wish I had done a little bit sooner, but I'm happy that I'm doing now.
Yeah, it's easy to lose perspective. Absolutely, it's so easy to get caught up on the next thing and what's going on now, and
Exactly.
forgetting all the things we wanted, or we are where we wanted to be, and how many other people would like to be in our shoes.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you taking the time. If you could hang out for 30 more seconds, I just want to say thank you so much for everybody that watched this. Made it to the end of the video. You are a true one. Thank you so much for watching. Best way to support this channel is by checking out my own original music and subscribing to the channels. And then go stream Gabby's new song through Rose's new song, correct?
Yeah. So it's called Therapy by Enrose, Enrose. It's on all the streaming platforms. Yeah.
Go check that out. Follow Gabby on social media and go check her out on tour in the UK and all over the world, and New Zealand and
Pretty much all over the world.
Lollapalooza.
Yeah.
With the Jonas Brothers. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. God bless and peace out.